Welcome back to another episode of the Fourth and a Mile podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Elliott, alongside JD Zasa. We'll be recapping week 9 college football and previewing week 10 with the season getting closer and closer to the end.
Yeah, we're
The
already in
season, at least.
November. This Saturday will be played on November 2nd. Man, time
Yeah,
flies.
crazy. But how was your weekend, JD? And
It was good. It
nothing
was good.
crazy?
I had a good time. I had a good time at most of the game at the Alabama game, and there weren't a ton of amazing games, but there were some really good. There were some great moments and some moments that kind of disappointed. But we'll get into that event. We'll get into that soon. But right now, we're going to talk about the headlines. Do we want to start with the headline today or kind of talk about some of the spotlight performers?
I think more so just headlines today, since it's more like
So,
newsworthy.
headlines today. The big news coming out today is about the cocktail party, the world's greatest cocktail party between Florida and Georgia. This year, it's being played at Trevor Begg
Yeah,
Stadium.
I don't even know what the
They
stadium
call
is
it
now.
Trevor Begg Stadium. So it's always been played in Jacksonville, but next year the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to start a massive renovation that's going to take about 2 years, 2 full seasons. So because of this, the Florida Georgia game was kind of up in the air of what they were going to do. Most people thought they were going to play one year in Athens between the hedges, and the other year was going to be in the swamp. Nope.
I think that was the logical idea, and then they go
That
with
yeah, that's the logical idea that everyone wanted, Georgia and Florida fans included. But no, we decided to get something worse, a neutral site game in Atlanta, Georgia and Florida for the next 2 years, which is 2026 season. Wait, that's right, 2026 season, correct?
yeah, I think it's 2026, or it's 2027. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, you can't
Okay,
really
yeah, here we go.
supposed to be a neutral site game. Both of these games are more so home games
Oh, actually, we got it. It's different. Okay, it's a
with
lot better than I thought it was. So in 2026, in 2027, it's going to be moved. In 2026, the game's going to be in Atlanta,
yeah,
which is about the 5.5, which is about the same length as Athens to Jacksonville. The
yeah,
next year in 2027, it's going to be in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium, home with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
yeah. That's like
So, I
two
mean,
first
it's a little
games, but
better for Florida, but I don't understand why not just do home? Give them the home games. One
it,
year, give it to Georgia. One year, give it to Florida.
I feel like if we're going by the fan, like what's the fan percentage for these games? I feel like it's gonna be closer to 50-50 probably in Tampa than it is. I mean, Atlanta is gonna be like 90-10 Georgia.
Atlanta's going to
Once
be
they
90,
like give out the allotment like they normally do.
80-20. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 70-30, 80-20.
Once they give out like the same allotment tickets like they do in Jacksonville, but still, not sure if you're a Florida fan, you want to
I
go
don't
up with Atlanta.
understand this. Like, if let's say the Red River rivalry, the Cotton Bowl knee renovations, I would have wanted Texas and Oklahoma. I don't get why we don't play. Why college football is like yes to neutral site. I'm like, home games are awesome. The best. I'm not a 12-team playoff guy. I wasn't a 12-team playoff guy, and to some extent, I'm kind of still not. But the best idea college football playoff ever had was first round home playoff games. I want 2 rounds of home playoff games. I think the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed the conference championship
Yeah.
should get a game. It should get a game, a home game, playoff game. I think that's the best idea ever.
Yeah.
But no, we got to
Next
have
week we'll get
neutral
that.
sites.
Next week we'll get our first college football rankings.
By this
Next
time,
week
yeah,
we'll
by this
have
time, we'll probably have a whole segment on that.
yeah, and we'll show what the actual rankings are, and then we'll kind of make our own what we come up with
Yeah.
together for rankings, and we'll do those for the rest of the season. But let's get into the player headline or like the team headlines slash player headlines. So I got Pitt's defense against Syracuse put on an absolute clinic.
Oh
Three pick
boy.
sixes on Kyle McCord, and they dominated Syracuse. I thought this
How
game was going to be
many
like pure
interceptions did
entertainment,
McCord
but
have? Was it four? Was it four and three pick sixes?
um, I think it may have been four. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it was four. It was five actually.
Because I remember watching this game.
Three pick sixes, five total.
I was watching this game, kind of working on my package around the SEC, kind of previewing the SEC games for everyone on WVUA 23 Sports. If you're interested, it's on our YouTube channel. If you're interested, but I was working on that package, kind of writing and editing. We have a TV. We have a TV about. I just turn left, and I look right there.
Yeah,
There's a TV in the station. I look, I start editing for like 5 minutes. I look up, Pitt
7-0.
scored. I look down, I go, Pitt scored 21 points. And at halftime, it was 31-0. I was like, what the heck happened? And then
Yeah,
my sports record was like, oh, McCord's thrown three pick
yeah.
sixes.
He threw five on the game, but he still somehow threw for 300 yards, which is crazy. Eli Holstein only had to throw
Garbage
the ball
time
15 times for 100 yards. But got
because
an
the
interesting
offense was
game.
barely on the field.
Yeah,
The offense had 21, probably gave
they probably
Pitt
had like 30 to 35 plays.
28
Maybe.
points. If you're off the interception, if they scored off the
Yeah,
interception.
but yeah, shout out to them. They got a big game in Dallas this weekend against your Mustangs.
Yeah, that's we'll get into that later in the show because that game has who would have thought at the start of the year that game would have college football playoff implications, but it does.
Yeah, very much so. Then let's see. Another is he didn't really put up the numbers. He only had 70 passing yards, but Marcel Reed made a clear difference quick, coming off the bench in the third quarter.
What
And
do we want to kind of transition to that game since we have it here?
yeah, and really just a surge, complete surge. Gutsy call by Mike Elko to bring in Marcel Reed. I mean, I kind of could see it coming because they were not moving the ball.
They were not moving the
Weigman
ball.
was
The
getting like
defense was doing
sacked left and right, wasn't hitting throws, and you needed that extra energy boost to give your offense some life. And Marcel Reed did exactly that because he can move in the pocket. He has great speed. I mean, he's a freshman. He was making good decisions when to run, and then he made that like two deep balls, and that's all they needed. And
yeah.
then the running game going, they couldn't even stop. LSU could not stop the quarterback run. I mean,
Yeah. And we'll get into that. Let's just kind of mention this really quick and then we'll get into it because this next team we're going to headline is also in one of our previews, Alabama's defense. They had three interceptions. Was it three
three
or four?
interceptions. Yeah,
Three interceptions, one by Quay Russaw, one by Malachi Moore, and one by safety Bray Hubbard. And they shut out Missouri.
yeah.
Now,
Even
now, context, Missouri, not a great football team. Brady Cook was out. But
they,
shutting a team
they
out of
got to the one
the
yard line,
shutting a team out in the SEC is really difficult.
especially in this game.
No matter how bad a team is. Like, who's the worst team in the SEC this year? Probably Kentucky.
Mississippi State.
Even Mississippi State. It's impossible. Do you
I
think
mean, if they played Kentucky, I probably would
no
actually
one's
take
shutting
Mississippi
out
State.
Mississippi State? No one shut out Mississippi State in the SEC.
Yeah, Mississippi State can put up numbers offensively.
Yeah, it's hard to do, especially in this era of college football, but Alabama did, and we'll get into that later, but massive credit to them. Now let's circle back around to the game of the week, which was the biggest game of the week, which was the Texas A&M Aggies and the LSU Tigers fighting for first place. Early on, it looked like LSU was going to
Yeah,
win just because by default their offense looked better. Like they didn't the offense didn't play great, but it was getting the job done. Texas
and
A&M keeping was keeping keeping the op keeping the team in the game and home field, but it didn't look good. But then one play and one change completely shifted the entire game. The play that that shifted the game was early in the third quarter. Nussmeier rolls to his left and throws a duck.
Yep.
Throws a duck to to the to a highly contested receiver, which gets picked off, and Texas A&M set up in LSU territory. When that happened, everyone's like, "Oh, A&M's back in the game." And then the change happens. Mike Elko benches Connor Wegman or Wiegman. Pretty sure it's Wegman. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then they give it to Marcel Reed, and Marcel Reed takes over the game. Texas A&M eventually blows out LSU. I mean, this kind of looks. If you didn't really watch the game and just look at the box score, Texas A&M beat him good. Like this was not.
Yeah. I think the big thing that was really the score. LSU had like they missed like what, three field goals, or was it like
Yeah.
two? They had so many chances in the red zone they could not convert on a third down, a key third down, or to keep
You
the
know what
ball,
this reminds?
and then they
You know what?
always miss these field goals.
You know what that reminds me of? The Magnolia Bowl this year between Ole Miss. Remember how many times Ole Miss was in the red zone? They
Yeah.
could not get a field goal. LSU, this is what Ole Miss dealt with. The thing I'm most surprised with is not only is Texas A&M like really good. I expected Elko to be. He's the guy. I knew he'd be the guy there, but like this early, no, I would. I did
Well,
not expect Texas A&M to be that good.
it helps when you have talent. I mean, they already had talent.
They always have talent. They had
And
Jimbo was a recruiter, but he could never coach.
it
They
helps
didn't
when
have a
you
football coach.
bring in a guy who was already on that staff, so he already knew like majority of the roster, so they had confidence to actually stay in the program. But more so,
Their
like,
defense is Mike Elko's defense. That defense is insane.
yeah,
Like
speaking on
that.
that defense is really
So
the
you saw what he could
adjustments they
do at
made.
Duke with about 3, 4 stars. Now he's got 5 stars. Some of the best athletes in the country.
They were disguise a lot of the they're in the second half they were disguising a lot of their man coverage, and they were flipping in the zone or they were flipping in the man like last second, and Nussmeier had a hard time reading it, in their
Dude,
pass rush for A&M started getting home because this
a little
little
holiday reference.
disguise
Little
just
holiday reference. Nussmeier, we're recording this October 30th. Nussmeier was seeing ghosts.
yeah.
He was seeing
It-
ghosts. He couldn't fit. He was he was
yeah, they were
wow.
confusing him,
The
and they
stadium
were,
pulse the stadium pulse got to him.
yeah, it was number one.
The number
But
one stadium pulse got to him.
A&M did its job in the first half. They stayed close in the game, stayed in the game, even though they weren't producing points on offense. That's all you can really ask for out of your defense, is forcing field goals, and they couldn't even make the field goals. So, I mean,
Here,
Nussmeier still played really good, but in the first half, but you got to play a complete game, and you can't be forcing throws like that in small pockets that you can't.
all credit to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Like your first place in the FCC, I'm so happy for them though. They
They
have
have a
waited
trap
so
game that
long.
we're getting in. They have a trap game this weekend that we're
We
getting
do.
into
We'll get
here,
into that
but
later. I am so happy for Texas A&M because they have waited. Uh,
4 years.
when was the last time they've had a actual football coach?
I mean, they
They
technically had
finally
it.
hired correctly, and this is the worst we're going to see of Mike Elko. And they're undefeated in the SEC so far.
I mean, their last like real football team where they had life was 2020.
Texas A&M, even then, it's like they weren't good enough. This is what Texas A&M should be. Like they have all the resources. This is one of the sleeping giants. Them and LSU, and there's a few other teams that are in there like Miami,
Yeah.
USC now. But sleeping giants where they're just like they're one coach away from being a powerhouse. Texas A&M hired the right coach, and they're going to be good for a long time. I would not be surprised if that trophy case starts filling up in Aggie land. But now transitioning to LSU, I gotta ask: did they even game plan for Marcel Reed?
It doesn't seem like it because they didn't have time. I mean, they got to win in the third quarter. It seemed like they had like no answer whatsoever for any
It,
of the schemes, and they just let him run right when he escaped
Marcel
the
Reed,
pocket. It was open grass.
Marcel Reed in the red zone was a Marcel Reed. in the red zone was unstoppable. And they didn't even do anything fancy. They just went fake jet power. They did quarterback counters, they did quarterback powers, they get pretty much Alabama's offense in the red zone. And
Yep.
LSU could not stop it. But give credit to Texas A&M offensive line. They won the line of scrimmage. But again, LSU, really? Your this was your this was your statement. This was a statement win that you could have had, but no. But now LSU went from, oh, we're probably a lock to get into the playoff at this point to it's do or die time.
Yep. That
It's do
USC
or die
game is starting
time.
to hurt them, starting to come back to bite them because they would have still had a game in hand.
Yeah, but the do or die now it's do or die in 2 weeks. Next week, actually,
And
no, not next week. Next week it's do or die, but we'll get into that next week.
10 days, do or die.
In 10, really, it's 10 days.
Yeah.
You want to head into the team LSU is going to face in 10 days and talk about them?
Yeah. Alabama shutting out Missouri. I mean, it was kind of a shock to both of us, but I kind of was leaning towards Alabama was going to come out and dominate, or at
I
least
think
cover the
Alabama's
spread at
covered
least. Yeah, I thought that they would cover.
because I was like,
It's a Brady
Cook
Cook's
was
injury, but
questionable.
like,
I knew Cook was questionable, and I know like we're better than Auburn. Like we're gonna take care some of these advantages, but the thing I was most surprised with was just the shift of Alabama. Just Alabama had from the first half to the second half. They looked like a completely different team. Like second half team looked that was their best performance since first half of Georgia. First half, I can't even say that because the offense looks terrible.
yeah,
It still has flaws, but the second half,
they
that
didn't turn the ball over at least offensively. They were
yeah. That
That's
but
the only thing that was holding them like not from being a completely trash half that
let's
they
get let's talk positive. Let's talk positive both sides, then we'll get into flaws. Because obviously we're Alabama fans. I mean, we both go to the school. We're gonna talk about their flaws. Awesome.
think positives is
The
you got
defense, the
defense
defense
held
keeps
up.
improving every single week. Like every single week, they just get better and better and better. And that's the thing I'm beyond thankful for this year. It's like I thought that was going to be our weakness the entire year. I thought we were going to be in shootouts the entire year.
And
Not
you
really.
held Missouri to 3 for 13 on third downs.
Yeah, they were better on third down because they got them in third and longs.
Then
Alabama,
only
they won the line of scrimmage finally. LT Overton was a nut. LT Overton and T. Smith were in the backfield every single play.
yeah, the defensive line probably played their best game.
LT Overton's like he's a star. He's so good. Um, the linebackers played really good. Bray Hubbard, I think
Bray
we're gonna be
Hubbard's
okay at
he's
safety.
filled in
I
really
think we're gonna be
nicely.
okay at safety.
He
I mean,
filled in nicely.
he filled in real nicely. On the offensive side, they finally they stayed balanced, which I was afraid they wouldn't do. Even though the run game wasn't working at first, and it took them a little bit of time, but finally did. They finally did something that they didn't do during the Tennessee game. And probably this was one of the main things DeBoer was looking at in the Tennessee film. They kept with the run game, even though it wasn't working, and stayed balanced. Like even if your run game is not going to work, if your run game is going to get like 1, 2 yards carry, eventually wear and tear is going to happen. Wear and tear is
Yep.
going to happen. They're going to get tired. These are
200
these are
271 on the ground on
they finally lived up to their potential there. The
Justice
passing
Haynes had
game,
his Justice Haynes had a really nice touchdown with that truck.
yeah. The passing game, another positive. The passing game was spread out. It wasn't
It was spread
Ryan.
out.
It wasn't Ryan this week. It was Bernard. It was Emmanuel Henderson. It
Yeah,
was
Henderson had a nice catch in the red
Kendrick
zone.
Law. Again, improvement. That's
Still
the
missing some open throws, but as long as you're winning the games, I don't care. Just get the
but
wins
let's
now.
get it. We'll get into the few flaws I had. Defensive wise,
No, I don't really.
I didn't really have any. I'm
I
just
think
like
it's just the only
nobody.
flaws you have is it was against Drew Pine and a hurt Brady Cook. But other than
Yeah, that like of course this
you
game's
can't
gonna
you
have
can't help what
asterisks
the
on
other
it.
teams lining up. It's not your fault that
It's
they're
not your fault. You're supposed to take care of business. And
yeah, you did exactly that.
people like us and people like us can talk about, oh, Drew Pine. As a football team, you just take care of business. A win's a
Yeah,
win.
exactly.
Like
Especially when you dominate.
the offense, um, what I was explaining to people in my section at the game, I was like, do you know what Jalen Milrow is? He's a roller coaster.
Yep.
He has these high highs where you're like, that's the guy that I'd spend a draft pick on. He's 2017 Jalen Hurts, but he's a little faster, but he's also a little less accurate. He's 2017 Jalen Hurts, and that's not a bad thing. Jalen Hurts took Alabama to
He
national.
is now.
It's not a bad thing. It's just you gotta have the playmakers around him, and they're gonna have to run the ball a little more than they probably thought they would have this year. Like he misses some throws that are gimmies. The 3rd and 11 where he had Ryan Williams open for a touchdown. Remember that throw? Like Ryan Williams has a hook, has a deep hook route. He's wide open. He just misses him. It was kind of late in the game, but still, you're like, really? You didn't set your feet?
Yeah.
Run game. I'd like to get that to the start a little earlier in the game. Am I mad about the run game? No. I'm just like lost. And then obviously it's penalties. It's like offense. There's still penalties. But at this point, it's like that's just this team. That's this team.
Yep. We
Like
can good win overall heading into the
and
bye week.
and they can go into the bye week. They can clean up the things that they didn't see. But you got 2 weeks to until you put you got a bye week before you play the biggest game of the year. Your biggest game of the year. This is bigger than Georgia for Alabama.
Let's go to the next game on
Massive.
the schedule.
This is the biggest game of Alabama's schedule this year. It's not the Georgia game. Because the Georgia game, if they would have lost, it's like, all right, whatever. If they won, cool. This year, this game, if you lose, you're done. You're done. You're gonna go to you're
Outback
done.
Bowl.
You're done. But if you win and you keep winning, then you're probably in the playoff.
You're definitely in the playoffs.
All right. Any other thoughts on Alabama before we move on?
I think we can go ahead and hit the next game. There's a good win overall. Get it to the bye week, get healthy, and just get ready to head to Death Valley next week.
Blank.
Let's hit this next game pretty quickly. I mean, Notre Dame dominating Navy. I mean, we both kind of expected this.
Yeah. This
I
isn't
don't,
the team that I think is going to beat Notre Dame. There's two teams late in the year I think could do it. This game, I thought,
Navy
no,
just doesn't have like a balanced attack.
no. The other Army's got more of a balanced attack. That's why I kind of went like, I think
Yeah.
Army has a better chance of doing it.
That's true. Yeah, I was kind of going off like last year's game a little bit. Notre Dame just completely dominated Navy, and I kind of felt like that probably was going to happen again this year, and it did. And Notre Dame just keeps moving along, just staying quiet, staying under everybody's radar, just keeps getting good wins. I mean, keeps stacking wins after that embarrassing loss. They could very well be top. If they didn't have that loss to Northern Illinois, they'd be like top three right now in the rankings.
I still think that's the worst loss of the year.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You can say anything you want about Alabama, but this isn't Vanderbilt of the past. This is
You beat it. You
Vanderbilt.
lost at least Vanderbilt's in the SEC. You're losing to a team in the MAC. I mean, shout out the MAC for Maction, but
And
it's
they're not
like,
even good in the MAC. They're
No.
awful.
But yeah, Notre Dame just keeps moving along. They're on a bye week this week, and they play Florida State, which could have been a big game. Now it's not.
Used to be.
But
Used to be. You want to talk that game? I watched a little bit of.
yeah, I didn't see much of this game.
Miami's the better team. I mean, what is there? What else is there to say? Everyone said everything about Florida State. They're the biggest.
Florida State was in that game, was technically in that game. They were in the range to cover the whole game, and then it got to the fourth quarter, and then they just collapsed.
Cover.
And we both hit the cover. We both picked the cover in here, and we got lost.
Wow.
Like in the last 3 minutes of the game too.
That sucks.
Texas
Next,
surviving at Vandy. I mean, I think my takeaways is, I mean, we kind of
Texas
Texas had a
like
guy go down in warm ups,
Texas
and I kind
did
of
something
thought,
Alabama didn't. They
yeah,
made Pavia nervous. They took away his first read. They were just the. It proves kind of like Texas is probably the better team than Alabama this year, just because they're just deeper on the defensive line. But that's not a bad thing.
helps they kind of just learn. It's more later in the season, so they kind of
And
could have learned more
another thing for
more
Texas
film.
that they were coming off a lot. They were coming off a loss, so
That
they're
too.
focused. But again, DeBoer prevent Alabama. It was DeBoer's welcome to the SEC. It's unexcusable, but it is what it is. Texas. I watched this game kind of. I mean, Texas got out of it. They didn't play their best game, and it's still they needed this win bad because so far that this is their best win. Like
Yeah, you don't really take style points.
Texas
You just
doesn't have a
get
good win
wins
this
now.
year. Texas. Vanderbilt's Texas' best win this year.
Yeah, technically it was a ranked win. I think Texas, they survived. You just move on the next week. I mean,
Yep.
Vanderbilt, they had a great fight. I mean, Texas was dominated. They were up 14. They were pulling
Vanderbilt's
away.
done everything they've
And
done everything they've
yeah,
shown recruits like, hey, we can win here. We can win here.
Vanderbilt, the Storms back in the fourth quarter, gets it close, and then they just can't get the onside at the end of the game to get another chance. But
Is there any other game you want to talk about before we move on to
I mean, I think we can talk about one of the game on Friday night, last Friday night, Boise State and
I didn't
UNLV.
get this game because of CBS Sports Network.
Uh,
What I did watch like game highlights. Ashton Genty is still great. You
yeah.
know, he just did everything.
Barry Odom is a defensive guy, and he held up Genty for the most part. I don't even think Genty got a touchdown, did
I thought
he?
UNLV could do. I thought UNLV was going to do it, man. I thought they were going to do it. But Boise
But
State, man,
Boise State used their
cruise
pass attack
control.
when they needed it.
They're on cruise control for the group of five.
Yeah, I think they're in the.
Genty, keep
I
padding
think
your
they're.
stats. Genty, keep padding your stats. I want you to win the Heisman this year.
They play another game on Friday. It's at
San Diego State.
San Diego State, and then they have Nevada, San Jose State, Wyoming, and Oregon State to finish off the year.
Oregon State and San Jose State might give them fits.
Yeah, San Jose State is 5-3.
They should be on cruise control. One game I'd like to talk about.
SMU Duke.
Little no, no that game was they got away with pass interference in the end, but they had half a dozen turnovers and they won a game. That is the clearest definition of a win is a win. They of course looked ahead of the pit.
So
And
what was the other game?
little brother, little brother down south.
I didn't really watch this
Auburn, you
game.
gotta win. You gotta win. Auburn got an SEC win. They beat Kentucky because they finally gave it to their best player on offense, Jarquez.
Yeah, I forgot. I probably should have highlighted Jarquez Hunter because he had
They
what?
finally gave it to Jarquez Hunter. Cam Coleman is not your best player because you can't give him the ball. Give it to your best player, which is Jarquez Hunter. He's good. He's really good.
And that was a good win for them. They kind of needed it if they want to make a bowl game at this point. And
What's
they
their
could still make a bowl game because I think they could actually win this game against Vanderbilt this weekend at home.
for Vanderbilt?
They're favored against Vanderbilt right now.
For Kentucky, for Kentucky, you had the great win against Ole Miss, but
I still don't know how they won against Ole Miss. They're like trending downward so
that's
bad.
that's like sneaky one of the worst losses of the year.
Now it is, yeah, because Kentucky's just spiraling.
I mean, yeah, it's bad. Is
And
there any
as
other
an Ole
games?
Miss fan, you thought that all you'd have to worry. I mean, now you're in a do or die next week against Georgia, and now I mean you have a trap game that we're gonna get into in a little bit next week or this weekend.
Is there any other games you want to talk about before we move on?
No,
Uh,
I think we can go ahead and move on.
there's one more. Arkansas put up almost 60 points against Mississippi State. They took care of business.
Yeah,
Oregon beat Illinois, who should not be in the top 25.
yeah, Oregon.
BYU, everyone thought UCF was an upset alert. BYU said, no, no, no.
Yeah, BYU is for real, but they'll
Took
still
care of
get there.
business. There, we already talked about Miami. Michigan State, Michigan was as putrid as we all thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
And they had a fight at the end.
Colorado is fine. Colorado's ranked. They beat Cincinnati. They're looking good.
They're good. They're good. They knocked out Cincinnati from the Big 12 title game. They were in the running for the Big 12 title.
Yeah. Right now you got Iowa State, Kansas State who survived against Kansas.
Iowa
Uh,
State, Iowa State, BYU, Kansas State, Colorado.
yep.
That's your Big 12 race.
Iowa State, Kansas State, Colorado, yep.
BYU.
BYU, yep, 4 teams. I keep forgetting that BYU is in the Big 12 sometimes.
It's still weird. Um, yeah, Kansas State gets out of a rivalry game with a win. One last game we'll talk about because it's big for this week. Penn State takes care of Wisconsin, but Aller gets hurt. Penn State does what they need to. Their defense buckles down and they run the ball, which is what Penn State's identity is this year. They got two really good running backs, and they finally used both of them, and they ran the ball. And Penn
Yeah,
State survives a scare because this
yeah.
was a scare for Penn State.
Yeah, that a lot of people had it as a trap game and
Yeah,
they
because it's right before Ohio State.
let's see, I'm gonna look up what
Oh,
it
want to talk about them really quick? Buckeyes.
yeah, they survived
Oh,
against
close. Nebraska. Good for
stingy
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Good for Nebraska, man.
They had chances in the red zone. They got like multiple like turnovers in the red zone and they
I'm
could have
I'm still I'm still saying this. Good for Nebraska. It was
yeah,
another one score loss, but that's something you can build on. That's
they're making progress year by year.
biggest the biggest win for Nebraska all year was that Colorado game. Like that was huge for them. And then one last game, Indiana, without their starting quarterback, survives. They're still undefeated.
Right now, I'm seeing that right now. Drew Hour is 2 days ago from ESPN. He's a game time decision for this Ohio State game. Let's get into this Ohio State game.
Not yet. Not yet. I want to talk about one thing with you. There's a world right now. We'll talk about what the ACC's big chaos scenario. There's a chaos scenario in the Big Ten.
What is that?
Imagine if Oregon wins, Indiana wins,
And Ohio State wins.
and Penn State wins.
Penn State.
Let's say they all win out. Indiana and Penn State make the Big Ten championship, not Oregon, because of margin of victory against Ohio State.
Well, it doesn't. When does Indiana play Ohio State?
They do. They play
So they
them. They play them. They play them the week. They play them on Cupcake Week. Remember, it's the week before rivalry week. So they get. So Ohio State gets Indiana, then Michigan. Which again, Michigan's not great this year, but that's tough. Two emotional games. They're gonna have to do two emotional games in a row.
I think I feel bad for. I think Indiana is going to lose that game against Ohio State, but we'll
I do
get to
too,
it later.
but we'll get into that later in the week. But
No,
Indiana,
that's a crazy scenario when you think about it.
they're the biggest surprise of the year. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
definitely. Nobody had them, especially Indiana in general, even outside of having
But
Signetti.
yeah, like
You
there are way more chaos scenarios this year than I think I've ever seen. Like the Big Ten, we have no idea what's going to happen.
since we're on scenarios, we get into ACC one real quick.
I want to wait for that one. We'll wait for
Yeah,
that one.
we'll
The
wait. We'll do
SEC.
it. We'll do it for the Pitt and SMU preview.
So let's write while we're waiting on it. Let's go through who can actually make the conference. The Big Ten. Would you say there's four teams that can make it? Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah, 4 teams right now. Yeah,
That's four. Okay.
yep. Big
For
12, four
the
teams.
for the Big 12, four teams, which we said were BYU, Iowa State, Colorado, and Kansas State, correct?
Yep,
Kansas State, Kansas State holds the tiebreaker over Colorado. Colorado needs a lot of help if they want to make that title game.
that game was so close too. Colorado could have
Yeah,
pulled that one
but
out.
again, tiebreakers matter.
Yep. And what would you say for the SEC?
The SEC, there are
5.
right now five teams. Texas A&M,
Yeah.
Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and
LSU.
who am I missing?
LSU. LSU is 1 loss. They're 3-1.
Is is that yeah, Alabama can't get in.
Alabama's 3-2.
Yeah. Yeah, five teams. Yeah, there's five teams I could see there. ACC, there's four teams.
Yeah,
It was in Miami, Pittsburgh, and SMU.
it's 4+ teams in every conference right now. Which
Yeah. Who would have thought
with
that?
it, without if you had divisions, you wouldn't have that.
I'm so I love that. I love this. I love that the
Yeah.
top two teams get to go to the Kent championship game. It doesn't make it a crappy championship game. I think like imagine if the SEC, let's imagine the Big Ten. Big Ten East and West. Who's the team coming out of the West? Indiana's a team in the East. Used to be a team in the East.
Who's it? Who are all in the West? They probably put Oregon in the West, it'd probably be Oregon.
It probably would have been Oregon. But like remember how
In the
bad the
East, it would have
West
been a
was
lot
in the Big
crazier.
Ten?
I think when you're looking at the SEC, at least, I think it kind of helps. You're gonna have like process of elimination because all these teams play each other in the top
Yeah.
5 for the most part. I mean, Georgia
Yeah.
already has a tiebreaker over Texas.
I mean
Georgia plays
there
Tennessee.
there's chaos scenarios in there like
Yeah, they
for
could maybe all finish with the same record, but they would still have tiebreakers because they
yeah.
all have played at least more common opponents.
But we got a lot of football left and after we get back we're going to talk about week 10. All right, let's get into this week's preview, which is week 10. We're in the double digits, my friend.
The home stretch
College
of the season.
football is getting close to being finished, and I am sad, but there's so much more football left. We're going to start the previews off just like everyone is starting off. The big game, a top 5 matchup in Happy Valley. Penn State versus Ohio State at 11 a.m. I mean,
Yeah, I don't like that it's a
I
noon day
hate it.
noon,
I hate
but
it. I was thinking they probably gave NBC the Oregon game for the night game, but Penn State, Ohio State for
Fox
what?
just
Right.
can't do a night game for once because they don't want to compete with the SEC doing a night game.
What's the biggest SEC game of the week?
What's the I forget what they have as
There's not a.
they
Do you
have this
really do you
A&M
really think
South
Texas
Carolina
A&M
game.
South Carolina would get more ratings than the Big Ten? Like
Definitely not.
they put Penn State, Ohio State the week of Alabama, LSU on a bye, and Georgia, Ole Miss. I get if they want to compete with those two, but the prime time slot. This was the prime time slot. And if you guys want to compete for supremacy over SEC, then put it at the night. But whatever.
It's fine. I'll still be watching it. We'll still be
Oh
watching it.
yeah, we'll be watching it. It's just I wish.
Yeah.
So
So is
what are the keys to the game in your opinion?
well for Penn State is hoping Drew Alar plays because if you don't have him, then you're probably in trouble. Bo
I think they can win this game even with the backup quarterback.
Pribua, however you pronounce his last name, he's really solid. He went like what 11 for 13, like 90 yards. So he did his
Yeah.
job.
I think
Uh,
the key to the
they
game
needed,
is run game for Penn
yeah.
State. Ohio State could not run the ball. And I don't get why they can't. I get why we cannot. But really, Ohio State, you have two of the best running backs in the nation, and they still can't run the ball.
I'm interested to see how Will Howard. I mean, he kind of dealt with Autzen Stadium decently good, like the atmosphere, but like you're going in the Beaver
They
Stadium, which is
got they
probably
got
gonna be
they
louder.
got they got rattled. They need Allard for the deep ball because that's how Oregon beat him.
Yeah, no explosive plays.
I don't know if Penn State can beat Ohio State front seven. But because remember last year, the story of the game was JT Tuimoloau,
Uh,
and he just took over the game
Both
for
of the
Ohio.
quarterbacks for Penn State are pretty mobile, but Drew Aller would be really like
I think Allard's
handicapped a
get.
little bit.
I think he's gonna play. I think he's
Oh
gonna play.
yeah, I think he's definitely playing too, but I think Ohio State front seven, like you said, is going to feast a little bit because they're going to take advantage of his. Because what did he hurt? Did he hurt like his ankle? Pretty sure like his leg,
Yeah,
his foot.
it was a lower body
Yeah.
injury.
So they're gonna probably they could take advantage of that because he's pretty fast runner. He's not like elite speed, but he can get out and move and give
The
guys
thing that
trouble.
Allard's got over this other Penn State quarterback is Allard's got a bigger arm, and that's I Allard doesn't need to be mobile. It's just move a. He just needs that arm, I
Yeah,
think. But
I
it
think Ohio State
good
offense
thing.
stays.
The good thing for Penn State is their defense has been playing really good. Their run game's been really good. It's just, do they have the playmakers on the outside to take advantage of the Ohio State secondary? Because it turns out that's probably the weakness of that defense. I mean, look at what Oregon did
Yeah,
to them.
Dylan
I
Gabriel
mean,
like
even though
it's
Oregon's
been-
probably one of the best offenses in the nation, I think I think other teams like Alabama, I think Alabama could have taken advantage. I think LSU could have taken advantage. I don't know if Penn State has playmakers on the outside. They need they need a they need a big game from a receiver, someone. Maybe it's Julian Fleming, the transfer,
yeah, I could see that happening.
maybe. But I think
Uh,
Penn State's probably gonna be able to run the ball.
yeah, you got Nick
Penn,
Singleton, Katron Allen. I mean, you gotta lean on them because they're both.
if you tell me who has the better average running game, then I'll tell you who wins right there.
I think another key for Penn State is just slowing down. I mean, Ohio State. Which team wins? Is it Ohio State's offense or Penn State's defense? Ohio State's offense has been very
It's one
inconsistent.
dimensional. It's one
Yeah.
dimensional.
And you still can't even trust Will Howard in the fully in the pass game.
I don't trust Will Howard.
Yeah.
But again, I think Penn State can win this game. I feel more confident about Penn State this year than I did last year.
Yeah, then he did in 22.
I do think Aller will play,
Yeah,
but
this
I'll tell you that I'll ask you this. Who's under more pressure, Franklin or Day? I think it's clear. I
yeah, I
think
think it's clearly Ryan Day.
yeah, like James, if he wins, great, cool. In
I
the
think
you're in the front seat for the Big Ten championship. If he loses, then it's like,
I
oh,
think more so
okay.
like James Franklin doesn't have as much scrutiny because Ryan Day, they spent everything, all their numbers in the NIL. It was all like they wanted to make it known that
But if
they
Penn
did
State
all
loses
this.
this game, it's like, oh, okay, Penn State lost. They're still undefeated. They'll probably have that one loss. It'll be kind of like it'll be typical Penn State. Really, really good, just never elite.
Never, yeah.
If Ohio State loses, then burn.
Every Ohio State fans was already
Every
like
burn.
they were already circling like that this was already
I'm
a
just
national
saying
championship.
scorched earth. Coach Signetti of Indiana, watch out for your phone. Just saying. I'm just saying. I wouldn't do it, but it's gonna be if you think it's bad, if you think it was bad when Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, just get ready for when Ohio if Ohio State has two losses
So if they have two losses, they don't have any good wins.
No, they
They
wouldn't.
have no good
And
wins.
and another thing, they wouldn't be able to make the Big Ten championship. They'd probably have to go on the road to.
So they're if they
They
finish
probably
10-2, hypothetically, their best win will be against Indiana.
hypothetically, but what if Indiana beats them?
I
Indiana's.
guess I'm only giving them that game because at the horseshoe. That's the only reason.
I'll tell Ohio State this: if they lose this game, they'll probably still make the playoff. I think they'll make the playoff. I still
Yeah,
think
but
that,
right
but
now,
they would have to go to. Imagine this. Imagine saying this at the start of the year. If Ohio State has to
yeah,
go to either Texas, Neyland Stadium,
or even Alabama,
Stanford Stadium, Death Valley, both Death Valleys, Clemson and
Bryant Denny
LSU,
Stadium.
or Miami. That's a possibility if they lose this game. But
Yeah,
if
very
they
much.
win, then
What's good about the 12-team playoff right now is that just getting sidetracked for just a minute. There's like 25 plus teams that could get in the playoff right now.
we were talking about this earlier in the schedule. Like think of the teams that could make it in Big 12. Four teams can
Yeah,
still make the playoff.
four right now. You have hypothetically, you have four from
You
the
have
Big
four
12,
that you have four in the Big 12. You got four in the ACC. You got five or
five in the SEC, 5 or 6 in the SEC. Yeah,
five or six. I'd say five after LSU Alabama. Five.
yeah, definitely.
Five in the SEC. So four, four, five. So that puts you at 13 teams right there. And that's not even including the Big Ten
No,
and the group of five team. Big Ten's right now got four and
and
five.
that's 17 right there.
Yeah. No, no, it's 18 teams. That's 18.
18. You still
That's
got the rest of the top 25, which has like one or
that's
two
18
losses the rest of
teams
the way.
still alive in the playoff. And then including the top 25. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's crazy right now.
chaos.
But if Ohio State doesn't make the playoffs, I think they would. Columbus is going to burn down.
Ryan Day, if they don't win the national
I
championship,
mean,
Ryan Day,
what if they go 10-2 and like destroy Michigan? Do you think he still has a job?
nothing changes.
Yeah, I
Nothing
think
changes. They still Ryan Day's still on the hot team. I'm like, he's
yeah,
like, hey,
he's definitely
guys,
still on
we
the
beat
hot seat.
Michigan. He's like, really think of this if you're an Ohio State fan. You're like, hey guys, sorry we lost to Oregon and Penn State, even though you gave us all the money to get everything we want.
Yeah,
But we beat Michigan. If I'm a Columbus fan, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm like, dude, look at this Michigan team. It's
but
being a, it's like be,
who do you trust more in
being
this
a
game?
wounded, it's like being a wounded dog.
Who do you trust more?
In this game, I trust. I think I trust talent more than I do until I see Penn State beat Ohio State. Like for true, like beat some line of scrimmage. They haven't beat Ohio State since 2016. It's been 8 years.
Yeah, I
This will
think
be 8 years since they've been Ohio State.
I think I
Can
trust
Penn
Ohio
State
State more.
finally win the big one? Can Penn State finally get over that hump? And until they show me they can do it, I don't trust them. I think the Buckeyes find
Yeah,
a way.
I trust Ohio State more, but I guess we'll get into it in the
But I
picks.
want Penn State.
I don't really trust them in this game.
I want Penn State. I think it'd be hilarious. I think
Yeah.
it'd be hilarious.
But let's head to Fayetteville for this next game. At the same time as this game, as Ohio State Penn State, you also have this game going on. If this game was at night, I would feel got worried about Ole Miss heading into Fayetteville to face off against Arkansas. Arkansas coming off a big win on Saturday against
I'm
the.
still worried about.
Yeah, I'm still worried, but I feel like that crowd is still going to be waking up a little bit. So they kind of got.
Arkansas used to 11 a.m. games. They're gonna be good to go.
That's true.
The thing I'm worried about with Ole Miss, it's been the same problem.
Penalties.
It's not even penalties. Do you know what the thing I'm worried about with Penn State is? That
Go on.
offense is worse than they were last year. They don't have a run game. They don't have a passing game outside Trey Harris.
And
They can't throw
I'm
the
pretty
deep
sure
ball.
he didn't. I don't think he played on Saturday against Oklahoma, but I think he's gonna play this. He's definitely gonna play this
If
Saturday.
you don't have Trey Harris, everyone thought Juice Wells was going to be this player like at South Carolina. They have no one outside Trey Harris.
Yeah.
Like, I'm worried because Arkansas is a high-powered offense. And coordinator-wise, who do you trust, Golding or Petrino? I trust Petrino over Golding.
Yeah. Right now, I definitely trust Arkansas offense over Ole Miss defense because Ole Miss defense has the same tendencies that Alabama used to have with Golding. Dumb penalties, and you're giving up big chunk plays. I mean, they were giving
Where's
up.
this game's being played in Fayetteville, correct?
Yeah, our Ole Miss, I think, is a touchdown favorite right now. This is
So
like the same line. I mean, I guess the Tennessee line was like 13.5, but this is kind of giving me like the Tennessee game vibes a little bit.
maybe, but I mean, Arkansas kind of. If Arkansas wins this game, then I think Pittman's safe. If they lose, if they just downward spiral after that Tennessee game, then I think they fire Pittman, promote
But
them.
they haven't had any bad losses yet. This wouldn't be a bad
No,
loss.
they don't have a bad loss, but
I guess Oklahoma State
Arkansas has higher expectations than you think. With
That's true.
like they're
Taylon
supposed
Green
to
has
be
been a
8 wins.
really
I think they should be 8 wins every year.
Taylon Green has been a win in the portal that they got. He's
Yeah,
been really,
yeah,
really
he's
good.
been great. He's been
He
great.
can he can be the difference in this game. I feel like
I think coaching.
Oklahoma did some like good things. They're moving the ball pretty good against them. I think the one thing Arkansas has over Oklahoma right now is playmakers, and they have a
I think
good running back and solid receivers.
I actually think Ole Miss got the playmakers over Arkansas.
No, I'm saying I
And
agree with that. I'm saying like to attack Ole Miss's defense. Arkansas has a
I do
and
agree with
so
that.
Oklahoma was moving the ball pretty well down the field against Ole Miss. Arkansas has what better playmakers on the perimeter right now. They have better
Yeah,
running back. So I
I
think
do agree. There is one thing that I will say about Ole Miss. They portal the guys who they thought were going to be really good in the portal. Some of them hasn't been good, but there's been two guys that have been really good for Ole Miss this year. Walter Nolan
yep,
and Trey Amos. They've both been really good.
they've been
Both
Trey
been,
Amos having like his best year.
yeah, good for him.
Yeah, he's like the one bright spot of that. Him and Walter Nolan are the bright spots of that defense.
But again, does Ole Miss look ahead? I don't know. You don't know what you're gonna get. Ole Miss is a box of chocolates, man. They're like Alabama. You don't know what you're gonna get with
Can't
Ole Miss.
trust them on a
I don't
game to game
trust them.
basis.
I can't trust them. Not once. I haven't trusted them once this year.
I mean, they were trailing at half against Oklahoma.
I thought they were gonna out talent Kentucky. What do you think happened? I thought maybe, maybe they beat LSU, and they have LSU by the ropes. So they just kick field goals in the red zone in the first half. I don't trust Ole Miss.
I think I trust Arkansas more in this spot because they've had a bigger win when it mattered.
Great. It's gonna be a great game. I think it's gonna be a
I think
great
it's gonna
game.
be a great game.
Everyone,
If you have a box on your TV, you can
everyone's gonna be watching the Penn State Ohio State game. But me as an
keep an eye
SEC,
out on this game.
but me as an SEC sicko, I'm like,
That's why you have the multi-view. If you have the multi-view on YouTube TV, you're set up
dude,
perfectly. You can
dude,
have that
I
quad box.
I need to get multi box. I need to get multi box.
You set up two streams
I need to get it.
when you
I
get
need
back home this
I
weekend.
need to get it. I need to get it.
Just pull up your computer and then have your
I
TV so you
know.
can see
Yeah, I
both
know.
games.
All right,
So
let's
let's
get
get
into
into
the next game, which another night game. We get into the night games really quick. The 2:30 slate, not great. Another game that's another good 11 a.m. game. This is part of the multi-box. Vanderbilt Auburn.
yeah.
The afternoon slate's not great because of one team. Because of one team. So early in the year, everyone thought, oh, this is the Big Ten day. Early in the year, it's like Big Ten day. You get the top four teams,
Oh yeah, Michigan and Oregon.
Michigan and Oregon. Yeah. Michigan, I mean, Oregon's gonna cover. Like
Wah, wah, wah.
quack.
Yeah,
Quack
big
all the
time.
way. Like that game was gonna highlight at 2:30 slate. North Carolina, Florida State would have been a highlight. No. Right now, probably the best game at the 2:30 slate is this game between Texas Tech and Iowa State. Texas Tech and I think Iowa State can upset watch Iowa State. Texas Tech can score points. That's what they like doing. Then you got the cocktail party. If Lagway just shows something, this is not one of those games that I think Billy Napier is going to win. They have some games coming up that I think they can win, but this is not one of them. For Georgia, don't look at Ole Miss. Florida, improvement, something. It's got to be better than last year's game, which was a blowout. I mean, what do you think? What do you think about the 2-3 slate?
It's bad. It's if you want to take your nap, you can go and take your nap during that time.
I'm gonna be probably gonna be watching the cocktail party and then the Texas Tech Iowa State game because I can't watch Michigan football so bad. They need Bryce Underwood bad if they can flip him.
Yeah, badly. But let's get into the night game.
The night
Texas
slate,
A&M, South Carolina. This seems like they're right. They play like every single year. It's kind of a weird
it's always close.
yeah, they always play weird games. I
Before we
still
get
remember this was
before we
like
get
Texas
into this
A&M's like first SEC game.
hold on, before we get into this preview, the night slate actually like it's not like star worthy, but there's some games that teams should watch out for. There's teams like watch out. Watch out. I think USC Washington's going to be an awesome game. I think Wisconsin Iowa's going to be good old Big Ten football. Ugly. And then Louisville Clemson. Clemson, watch out. Just watch out. Clemson, watch out. But again, the big game of the night slate is Texas A&M South Carolina. So you were saying it. What do you think? Texas A&M, they're coming off the biggest
Yeah, I think this is a
win they've had probably since the Alabama game that they beat us
yeah,
in 21.
this is a trap game for A&M. Just because I think South Carolina can give if they I feel like Marcel Reed coming in, kind of makes a difference, kind of neutralizes that rush a little bit from South Carolina just because Weigman cannot really move in the pocket that much, and
No.
Dylan Stewart and company would have had a field day with that. But I still think that rush can give Marcel Reed a lot of trouble too. I think the big thing is I want to see how Norris Sellers does against this A&M defense and how much problems it could give him. That's what I'm worried about is how
Yeah,
South
I'm worried
Carolina's
about
gonna
it. They're
worried about how South
Rocket
Carolina's gonna
Sanders.
move down the field.
Rocket Sanders has to have a big game for South Carolina to pull off the upset.
Hey, but this is gonna be in the cockpit in Williams-Brice Stadium.
At night.
Sandstorm is gonna be this could be like the game, the Texas A&M, not Texas, the South Carolina Tennessee game, like the atmosphere.
I was about to bring that up. Do you remember the
Gonna
last
be
time they had a top 10 team
yeah,
come to South Carolina? Playoff hopes died
down the
that
drain.
night.
This is a very big game. I say like Shane Beamer, this is a really big game, like momentum
So
booster for him.
I have something to say about South Carolina. South Carolina, dear South Carolina, why are you you? Why can't I predict you? Every week I think you're going to be really, really good. You don't win. Like I picked you guys to beat LSU, and I picked you guys to beat Ole Miss. Laid an egg, and no pun intended. No pun intended for
Yeah.
that. I expected you guys to to not play good against Alabama and not cover that game, and then not cover a few other games. You cover those games. I'm like, can you please? Can I please predict you right? I don't know what you're going to be. You and Arkansas are the same tier of SEC teams for me, where it's like great teams, good teams, and then you get to like the middle. Like these teams are bad. It's just like I don't know. Like I my bets have died in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Columbia, South Carolina, because I don't know what to expect from both these teams.
Yeah,
But
this
for South Carolina State, they need this win. Like Shane Beamer badly needs this win. Elko, look, Texas A&M, they're fine for the playoff life, but if they lose this game,
they can end Texas season.
if they lose this game, then they're probably not going to the Probably
They could if they beat Texas. If they
they
win out and beat
could.
Texas,
They could.
you're not going to leave out a team that beats Texas. You're not
Texas A&M needs this win probably more than
more.
South Carolina. They both need it for completely different reasons. Texas A&M needs it for their playoff hopes. South Carolina needs it just for hope. Hope.
Yeah. I just want to see how Norris play. I think the big thing is going to be both of their. This is like a good like matchup on both sides of the ball. You get
I also
how
think
Marcel Reed does against this pass rush and this defense as a whole. Their secondary is solid too. And then how Norris Sellers does. Both young, both freshman quarterbacks. Let's battle the freshmen. Let's see how they do against A&M's
they
defense
play
and how
very
Mike
similar.
Elko tries to
Reed and
disguise.
Sellers play very similar too.
Yeah, they do. I want to see how they disguise the coverages against Sellers and give him
I
trouble.
This game is probably I'm giving the death note to South Carolina because of how this year's gone, but I'm picking the upset.
I think I'm gonna win that way too.
I mean, I don't know why. I think South Carolina Knights one of the most underrated atmospheres in college football.
And look, Marcel Reed, he hasn't really played. He played in the swamp, but he played in the swamp when it was raining. You can't really like get a juiced up atmosphere when it's raining and
This
dead
this
vibes in
this
the swamp.
game, you're going night game, South Carolina, and they got probably the best defensive line in they've got a top three defensive line.
In
South
the
Carolina's
country.
got top three defensive line in the SEC, which is saying something.
If you mean top three in the SEC, that probably means like top 10 in the country.
Probably.
They they have the dudes in that team. But let's hit your ponies real quick before we get into the picks. I mean, this
Okay.
game could be
Let me
wild.
let me
ACC
start
after
off.
dark.
Let me start off with chaos. There is a chaos scenario built up in here. So let's get into the outcomes of this game. What is the fallout of this game on both sides?
SMU winning.
Let's go with the cleaner answer. Pittsburgh wins. If Pittsburgh wins, SMU gone. SMU's out.
No, I think the scenario I read was with SMU. So SMU wins,
Just give
Clemson
me a minute.
wins, and Miami wins.
Believe me. I'll get there. I'll get there. Just let me cook. Let me cook. If Pittsburgh wins, SMU still can. They just don't have. It's like a
They want to
very
be playing
very
in the
unlikely because if Pittsburgh wins this game, they'll be undefeated. In 2 weeks, they'll in 1 or 2 weeks They're gonna play Clemson. Clemson gets to go to Pittsburgh to play Pittsburgh. I believe so.
yeah,
That's
it's at Pittsburgh. I think
it's
this
at
could be like the
Pittsburgh.
game. This could be like the
So
biggest crowd and
so what will happen in that game? Pittsburgh and Clemson will probably play for the winner to play Miami. Winner of that game goes on, loser doesn't. That's the clean scenario. If SMU wins, chaos.
if
If
they all win
SMU
out.
wins, let's there's a few things that can happen. SMU wins. Pittsburgh probably done. Done. They're done. Unless they somehow beat Clemson and they have a few things happen. If SMU wins and Clemson wins out and Miami wins out, then you would have three undefeated ACC teams fighting for the championship because SMU's only loss this year
BYU.
is BYU
They would have
in
beaten
week one.
BYU in that game. I was watching that game. It
They
was on a
should have.
Friday
They
night
probably
game,
should have.
and they played like this. Is
They
those
played
are
terrible.
offenses like worst game
But
of the season.
if that happened, then probably margin of victory would come in between common opponents. And I know one common opponent all these teams have Florida State.
I think it goes by ACC opponent record,
Probably, but
and right now the
and most likely it'd still be Miami Clemson, but there'd be more controversy going. What about SMU?
I think the record. I think it's the what I read is the ACC opponent record, and right now the so they all use Florida State as like a is like where they start. The rest record is Miami and Clemson. They're both tied with it's like 16 and 20 or something like that.
Probably
SMU
look,
is at like 13.
probably Clemson, Miami will be in the
Probably play, yeah.
but but for the sake of the college, but for the sake of the ACC committee that has to decide this, you guys better hope Eli Holstein Alabama transfer Eli Holstein plays really good, and they take care.
You
And
should go to this game this weekend.
I haven't looked at tickets, but I will try. I will absolutely try. SMU. SMU. This is the biggest game SMU has played in Dallas in a very, very, very long time. Everyone thought it was going to be the Florida State game. When Florida State was on the attack, it was like SMU. SMU is the
Uh, Tickets right now are $30.
well, that's my Saturday night. Well, there's my Saturday night.
How
Um,
far are you from the stadium?
5 minutes.
Yeah, you might have to go to
So
that.
okay, podcast viewers. I go to Alabama originally, but I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I I'm 5 minutes away from SMU, Southern Methodist University. I go to there. I go to the same places they all drink. I go to all the places they eat. It's like it's great. I've been waiting for an SMU team to be good because it is so much more fun in Dallas when SMU is good. When SMU is good, when they've had the better seasons, Dallas has been fun. And believe me, some of my all-time favorite teams were those Pony Express teams. They're the documentary on Pony Express by ESPN made is the greatest 30 for 30 documentary I've ever seen. I loved it.
Yeah.
I want SMU is my team that I root for that I didn't go to college to because they're my hometown team.
It's like with Birmingham people going for UAB.
Yeah, it's like Birmingham people going for UAB, even though they're probably Alabama or Auburn fans. They root for UAB because it's just good. It's fun.
It's a good story.
So this game is going to be
A shootout.
won by the Doof. What defense plays better? I
If you
have
get the
no
pick from
idea.
Thursday night, then probably Pitt.
It is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a shootout.
The total is at 58.5 right now.
Yeah, like I'm expecting Holstein to have a great day. I'm expecting Jennings to have a big day.
And Holstein didn't get to have a good day because the team was already up by so many points by the time he was able to get on the field.
So
So I'm expecting Holstein to have a much bigger impact on this game. He's going to have a big game.
I will be very interested to see how much what an SMU home crowd looks like for this game. The biggest game they've played in a long time because if they win this game, then playoffs are on the table for the Mustangs, which I
Yeah,
never
if they would have
even in
beaten
my wildest dreams, I never thought that was
they
possible.
would have beaten BYU at home earlier in the year, they would be 9-0.
Yeah.
8-0 right now, and they'd be like probably like top 15 or they're 20th right now.
But going into this game a little bit, again, it's going to be a shootout. I would be very surprised if not. If SMU doesn't turn the ball over, like
Yeah.
they probably cover against Duke. They're probably up 21 and a half. Probably cover the 21 and a half.
It was a 12 point spread in that game.
Yeah.
I think the thing so SMU is like a 8.5 point favorite right now. I think the big thing with
I'm
SMU
surprised
is
SMU's the favorite. I would have actually thought it would be Pittsburgh.
home crowd helps a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
like you said, they just need to play clean football. You can't turn it over because Pitt's offense is dynamic, and
Mhm.
I feel like the only way Pitt can get off the field is turnovers. Their defense is not very good. They,
Yeah,
but Jennings has made a lot of mistakes, and he's not really the best passer, but he's really explosive with his feet. So I feel like that he will be able to take a lot of advantage on that. But should be a good
agreed.
ball game in Dallas. Hopefully, you can buy a ticket and you get to watch this game, and then you let us know how it is. But
I'd be so happy if I could get to this game, but
you ready for picks?
I am ready for picks. What was last week? How did last week do?
Last week, I believe we won every game except for the Florida State cover because we both had the same picks across the table.
We didn't pick it against each other on anything. So we
Yeah.
picked against
We
one.
both had. Oh wait, no, one game. You had UNLV. I had Boise State.
Oh. Well, hey, you won. Hey, you
Yeah,
went.
won the weekend.
You won. Yay. All right. Let's get into predictions. Let's do it.
All
You
right.
ready? So we got two spread games.
Two spread games. Do you like those two games?
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Ohio State, Penn State. I am going to pick the Buckeyes. I have to see it from Penn State to believe it. I've picked this team so many times to beat Ohio State, and every time it's the same thing.
I just want to see.
Just not physical enough.
I just want to see hell break loose. We are.
I want I want it. So I want Penn State to
Be
win.
Penn State. We are
We're
Penn
gonna go
State.
Penn State again. This game, I want
I think I'm
it
gonna be picking a lot of upsets this
for
weekend.
the sicko.
This is a game with not
I'll
many
call a
marquee
sicko
games.
that wants chaos. I want Ohio State to lose this game.
With many games that don't have that you don't really scream chaos this
This
weekend.
game could be like this week could be a volcanic Saturday.
That's what I'm thinking.
It could be volcanic.
All right. Ole Miss,
Kind of like
Arkansas,
that week. Kind of like that week where we lost to
Alabama.
Vanderbilt and then Tennessee
Yeah.
lost to Arkansas. That volcanic. It
Speaking of
could.
Arkansas, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Who you got? You trusting the piggies?
No, I like Kiff. I trust Kiffin more than I do Pittman. Give me the rep. Give me Hottie Toddy.
This could be a bad week for me. Give me Arkansas.
It could be a bad week for me. I'm picking all favorites.
Yeah, if I
So
pick all right, let's go visit the Gamecocks.
finally, I'm picking an upset. I got South Carolina. I
I'll,
love. I love. I am a massive, massive, massive fan of Mike Elko, but also I trust home field. I trust home field here. Night. Last time a top 10 team went into South Carolina at night, it went really bad. Like
have it.
awful.
Broke loose. All right. I got the Gamecocks as well.
South Carolina. Next,
Louisville, Clemson. I think we can both agree on this game. Clemson.
I'm going to pick Clemson, but Louisville covers. This is going to be tough.
It's
This is
10
going
and
to
a
be
half
close.
right now.
This is going to be close.
I just don't trust Louisville's
Again, if
defense.
Louisville wins this game,
Show is gonna have a big
then
day.
Clemson's
I think
act.
their ways to victory are very slim. Is just Tyler Show has to have a big day, and their defense has to force Colton
Yeah.
making some turnovers.
Speaking of, is Miami on the bye this week?
Yeah, I think Miami's off this week.
Okay.
All right,
Next game
Pitt
we got
SMU.
is Pittsburgh at SMU. I think everyone knows why I'm going pony up.
If you're going to the game, give me SMU.
What
You
am I
kind of
going?
have to go to the game now.
What game if you don't?
I kind of want to back Eli Holstein, but give me SMU. Give me SMU. For you, I'm going to SMU. I can't pick against them.
And I wouldn't
No, Auburn, a game
again,
that I could go to.
again. If Pitt wins this game, then I want them to win the ACC.
Yeah, me too.
It's like whoever wins this game, I'd like to see win the ACC. Them or Miami.
Vanderbilt and Auburn, 11 a.m. This is another 11 a.m. game.
What's the spread of this game? Because I
I think
saw
Auburn is favored on this game.
Vanderbilt, Vandy,
Hey,
Dandy
I'm
Vandy,
probably going to try to go to this game if I go down to Auburn. Auburn is favored by 7 points. And no,
Vandy,
should Auburn be favored by 7? Give me Vandy.
Vanderbilt.
I don't know why Auburn's favored. I would, if
No way. This team should have lost to Missouri. This team should have beat Missouri. No. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt. Next game we got is the spread games.
yep.
So to new viewers, spread games, we pick between spread. The two games Nicholas decided we're going to pick by the spread are Oregon at Michigan. Oregon's got to win by 14 and a half, which means 15 points. Oregon's got to win by 15 points to cover. Who do you got?
I got Oregon. With Oregon, and then
I got the Quackers.
are we
Oregon.
both? How about Florida, Georgia?
This is 16 and a half. Georgia's got to win by 17, which is probably two touchdowns on field goal. I'm actually going to go with Florida. I think they
Yeah,
cover.
I think I'm going to lean Florida as well.
I think Lively's
I just
really
like watching Florida. It's just always they have a good color scheme on their.
they're a good they're a good football team. They just got dealt Murderers Row.
They're a good team to like root for.
Yeah. All right, and that'll do it for the Fourth and Mile podcast. For Nicholas Elliott, I'm Jay Zaza. We'll see you guys Friday for the NFL. episode. And as always, have a great weekend. Goodbye.